Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond. Broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off.
Back at you in Gloves Off, and today I have a great guest, Dr. Petra Deeter, and we're touching base on a subject that many have seen, felt, and are confused about: parental alienation. How are you doing today, Doctor? You doing good?
Thank you so much for having me here. Yes, I'm very good. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to share this with you.
Well, thank you. The reason I ask is because through most of everybody's lives, we've seen some form of parent alienation, whether with a family member or a friend was subject to it. And many of us could never put the finger to what it was until many of us get divorced and they're inside a child custody and feel something. Then you realize that what the term is and what it's labeled. I would like for you to explain to us what parental alienation is and how it stems and the effects and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I think you brought up such a good point, which is it's such a common thing. Like it's widespread. It's so common. Actually, there was a study that estimated that over 80 something, I would say 86 or something % of all the divorce or separation, there are some type of alienating behaviors. So it's actually pretty common that people experience this, but yet there's such a lack of public awareness on this topic. So when we are faced with it, like for parents that are faced with this situation, a lot of the time parents don't have any idea what it is. And so they usually struggle and they usually feel like they're really completely alone and isolated and in shock because they don't understand what's going on. They had a loving relationship with their children, and then suddenly the child or things start to show up a little bit strange, and then the children suddenly reject them, right? So they are in complete shock. And so usually a lot of the time parents takes a long time before they realize that there's a term for it. It's called parental alienation. And what it is it's the situation or the scenario where a child rejects a parent for no good reason, and it's due to the influence of someone else. And that someone else often is the other parent, but it doesn't have to be. Sometimes the alienator can be the step parents, it could be grandparents or other people, but often it is the other parent, and it usually happen in a separation or divorce, but it does happen in a normal intact family.
Sure.
If you should say. Yeah.
And you see that in some cases in some intact families you start seeing that. And what was I going to say? What I've seen of what witnessed really would be family members who end up getting divorced. All of a sudden, your aunt tells your cousin, "Hey, don't allow him to go see the father," blah 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 blah. You see,
Right.
Right. So many of us grew up. We saw that. We're subject to that. You're playing over a cousin's house, and the cousin's divorced, and they start talking ill about the ex of the mom of the cousin. Right. So some people are aware of that, and I remember seeing, and you'll say, "Why are you talking bad?" Or if you say something, "Why are you talking bad about him?" He's a good person. You get rejected. You get shut up. It's none of your business, kind of thing. But there's also other problems. Correct? The children that are being alienated, if they also are experiencing trauma. Correct?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I am a part of an organization called the Hero Circle. I mean, I'm a founder of Victem to Hero, which is a platform where we provide resources and information to parents. But I'm also a part of an organization called the Hero Circle. The Hero Circle is an organization that is entirely consists of entirely members who are children who are victim of parental alienation or who are now adults. So these are adults that have grown out of this situation, like you mentioned, and it's horrific. I mean, we have this monthly event where we have a panel of these adult children of parental alienation who come on and share their experience so that other parents and other children can become aware of this problem. And the kind of problems that they share, how, because the problem is when you're a child, you may not realize what you experience. You're being brainwashed and you're being influenced in a way that you see whatever that's being told to you as the truth, and it's actually a distorted truth. Sometimes it's complete false, actually. And so when you grew up and when you finally realize what it is, it's shocking because you realize that a part of your life had been a whole lie. It's to realize that somebody that you loved, usually one of your parents, who lied to you about the other parent, which is the half of you, right? You're part of both of your parents, and now half of you that you denied and reject. So you now have this trouble. You lose sense of trust. You have trouble relating to other people because how could somebody that you loved lie to you? How can you trust anybody else? And when you were a child and you're vulnerable, you trust your parents, and then your parents, the one that abused you. So it's ability to relate to other people, it creates a lot of stress and depression, trouble adjusting with life, suicidal, a lot of problem. I mean, we see there's a very common sense of what they call, emotional homelessness, things like that, trouble, interacting with other people, and it's really have all the impact on all aspects of our life. So yeah, it's very serious. And there's a study that estimated that over 3.9 million children in the US alone that are affected from the moderate to severe level of parental alienation, and that's 3 times more than children that are affected by autism.
What you say, it's astounding because there's a lot more that it's actually going on. You see it. Well, I used to see it here because I used to teach it. We teach and do teach a lot of kids, right? And they all of a sudden they get separated, and the child's with the mom, and the father's continuing to pay classes. So we teach a martial art, and the child never comes here because the father was paying for it, right? Or right away they'll tell you, I'm divorced, but I don't want his father to know that they're here. I don't want, so you start seeing all this stuff like that, and you're like, it's kind of hard to bite, to swallow when you see something like that. And something's already happening that's wrong. Let me put it to you this way. When a parent that just got divorced realizes it, what should be the first steps they should do?
Yeah, I think that's the thing is there's such a lack of public awareness that people, when they are faced with this, they don't know what it is. So they don't know how to deal with it. So the common reaction is that because you see the child that suddenly turns cold and defiant or, reluctant to want to be with you. And then you see your ex is withholding the child or, saying bad things about you. The natural response is parents tend to react to it, right? They get angry. They even probably raise their voice. They even like screaming at their kids. They may try to discipline the kids because the kids now kind of cold and rude, right? Things like that. And that is the worst thing that you could do. So I know you asked for what to do. I want to address first is what not to do. The first thing is not to react. Because what has happened is that your ex has painted a really ugly picture of you to your kids, and your child is now looking for has now bought into this false narrative, and so anything that you do is going to give the child signal to validate this story. So if you react and you raise your voice, then it's so easy for your ex to point to you and say, see, look at that. See, he's abusive, or she's abusive, or unstable, or emotional, right? So it validates the story. So then it pushed the problem further and it became even more dangerous, right? So there's actually we released a book today and it's free on Kindle on Amazon. It's called Diagnosing Parental Alienation: The 5-Factor Model Workbook. Now, so there's a model out there that is well established among the scientific community to how to diagnose parental alienation. So we released this workbook to help parents walk through their situation, to figure out how to document their case. But one of the things that we added as a bonus at the end of the book is actually how to deal with parental alienation. And so when you're looking at dealing with parental alienation, it's actually a 5 parts to it. You have to look at, in order to understand your situation, firstly, you have to be calm. You have to step back out of it and try to understand your situation. So you need to look at all the stakeholders in your situation, right? So the stakeholders in your situation, obviously, there's you, there's your child, and there's the alienator. But there are also many other stakeholders. Sometimes there's extended family that have influence on your child. The extended family on the ex or the alienator side. There's teachers that, like in your case, you mentioned, extracurriculum instructors, like martial arts schools, sport coaches, things like that. So, there's neighbors, there's community, the church, so you want to look at all these stakeholders and try to see where do these people play in the role of how your child is going to be with you. Because that's very important to understand how everyone is going to play a role in this. And sometimes the ex will get other people involved. For example, they will create false narrative, false allegations about you, and they will call Child Protective Agency or, Department of Health Services or things like that. Or they even probably call the police. Sometimes they call, things like that. So you need to understand, you need to become aware of all these stakeholders and how do they play in this. And then when you look at this whole picture, right, once you sort of consider all these stakeholders, you will realize that the only person that can truly save your children and save you out of this is you. There's nobody else that can save you here. It's not the system that's going to save you. It's not, there's nobody else. Your child cannot save you because your child is this innocent victim in this whole thing. And your ex is malicious. So your ex is not going to try to help you in any case. So the first person that need to be able to save your child is you. So the first thing you need to do is to be okay. Now, it's very difficult to be okay when somebody is attacking you. This is a psychological form of attacks, right? So your ex is bad-mouthing about you, withholding your child, preventing you from seeing somebody that you love, your child. It's heartbreaking. So it's very difficult to be okay, but yet you have to be okay. So when you fall into this situation, you need to be calm. You need to look at this whole landscape and then be okay first. So that's one of the facets that we talk about in this book. Like I mentioned, it's free on Amazon Kindle. So you can just get that. We also talk about the other 4 facets of it and what to do. We also talk about, how to fight in courts and things like that. But there's a workbook there with printable worksheets that help you structure your case. But yeah, there's a lot there. I mean, I don't think we have enough time here, but I just want to highlight the key thing is that you have to be okay. You yourself have to be extremely aware of your situation and learn how to handle your case. And then from there, it will span out about how you handle your children, how you handle your alienator, how you handle other people, and obviously how to handle your case in court.
Absolutely. That's wonderful that you have, because there's many people out there that need that. What I'll do is when at the end of this podcast, this will be on YouTube, we'll put where they can get that book at the bottom and information like that in the groups that you have. I think that's very important. Now, here's a question. What happens, is there a lot of magistrates inside the court systems that understand that parental alienation exists, or are most magistrates just kind of oblivious that it exists or don't want to hear about it?
So They're actually, so a lot of parents feel like the system fails them. And there's some truth to that. There's a lot of parents feel like when they go and try to get heard and they are not being heard. And a lot of it, I mean, part of it is that there's a lack of public awareness because parental alienation is so counterintuitive. So it's very difficult for people, like when someone hears that a child has rejected a parent, the natural response is to think that something is wrong with that parent or that parent has done something bad. So it's very counterintuitive. So when you go to the judge and talk about your situation, some judges may be uninformed and may not be able to understand this situation. So you do have that. But another big part of this is that parents don't know how to structure their case and how to fight their case properly. And so the court system, right, it is a tool. And if you don't know how to use this tool properly, and if you don't know how to present your case properly, then obviously you cannot expect the system to be able to solve your problem for you. So that's the other part that is so important. And the problem is a lot of professionals, so, parents will go to lawyers and try to get lawyers to represent them. And the problem is a lot of lawyers don't actually understand how to present parental alienation cases. And that's another big problem. And so that's why at the end of the day, a lot of parents feel like, the system fails them. But there's a lot of elements to this. And parents can actually really help themselves by become, informed and educated. We provide a lot of this information on victim2hero.com, and you can go on our Facebook page as well. We have live event, a few times a week, and we bring in these experts to help you, and all these are free. So, parents can get this information and become educated and learn how to present their case so that you can find the right lawyers, build the right team. And that's something that we talk about this booklet as well, how to build the right team, what kind of team you need to build so that you can fight your case. So there's that. But really, actually, there's a study by Dr. Harmon from Colorado State University and Dr. Lorandes that study the appellate court case for the last 10 years. So they look at all the cases that to do with parental alienation in the last 10 years. I think they pull 1,000 cases. And what they found is actually when you do present a case of parental alienation and it's proven that it's parental alienation, the court actually does make the right decision of taking the child from an abuser and giving the child to the right parent and help to reunify the family properly. So the system does work. It just it's not perfect. And that's part of it. It's why we are looking to for example, we try to support, to provide our support and push this bill through in Texas, which is the HB 2153, which is the bill that's going to recognize that when someone influences the child to reject or reluctant to have a relationship with a parent, that should be considered a form of child abuse. It's essentially saying that parental alienation is child abuse. And I think that's very important part of how to get the system to recognize this problem properly.
Absolutely. Is it now that opens up another question, doctor? Is it looked upon as child abuse right now?
Unfortunately, for example, in Texas, it's not, right? So it's very inconsistent. And a lot of the time, parents have to find way to sort of like interpret the law, like there's subtle details in, for example, abuse or child abuse. It depends on your jurisdiction, and it's not very clear or straightforward. And that's why if we could get this law through, it become a lot more straightforward. And when you think about it, it's clearly a form of child abuse because you have the impact of it on these children is long-term. The long-term consequences is very serious and is a form of psychological abuse. So it's clearly abuse. It leaves impact and is affecting a lot of children. So, and there's a lot of scientific data on it. So clearly it is a form of abuse, but for some reason it has not been recognized properly. So if we could have a law that clearly spell it out, then obviously we can protect a lot of children from this.
Absolutely. Are there any other states that recognize it as a form of child abuse?
Not that I'm aware of, actually. There are different, like I mentioned, they're different. For example, certain state will have law that talk about, coercive control or some other. There's no state that just spell out that, brainwashing or conditioning or influencing a child to reject a parent is child abuse yet that I know of. I'm not really fluent in law, actually, so I don't entirely aware of if there is out there. But for example, we wrote to the Danish government, and they wrote back, and they provided us with a number of code in their law that defines that it is a form of abuse.
I think Brazil has implemented something to that form, that if they try to, parental alienation is some type of abuse. There's some issues on that.
No, actually, that's not entirely correct. So we interviewed Dr. Sandra Baccara. She's an expert in Brazil on parental alienation, and we thought that was the case. So one of our audience actually asked her that question and said, "Is it true that in Brazil, parental alienation is a form, is now considered, is legalized? It's criminalized in the law now?" And she said, "No, actually, they put together a bill, but it never actually went through."
Is that what it was? Okay. We all have to unify, especially because there's a lot of facets that go on to parental alienation. Some of them are very minute, and some of them are very, very big.
Right.
And some of them are very aggressive big. So does it become more aggressive, bigger as time proceeds, or does it always, or it's how can I put it, or always stays the same, or per individual?
Yeah, so the severity, there's diagnostic tools out there to determine the severity of parental alienation.
Right.
And the severity of alienation really depends on a lot of factors, right? Because the children are growing up. We're talking about life situation here, and we're talking about human dynamics, family dynamics. So it can be quite complex. But children are growing up, so they become aware of different things, right? So for some children, it can get a lot worse, but some children, it can get a lot better. So it really depends on the situation. It also depends on, obviously, the alienators. Some alienators are very malicious and very blatant and will do anything. But there's some alienators, if you can put the right kind of warnings, the right kind of boundaries, then they might step back. Some alienators will, alienators, a lot of alienators are narcissistic or borderline, personality. So when they have something, some other shining object, some other interesting thing that catch their attention, they might release their pressure on the child, so the situation can get better, for example. It also depends on, obviously, the targeted parents, what you how you handle the case, how you control the situation. So it really, the sooner you can get control of your situation, the sooner you become aware of your situation and change your parenting style, change the way you handle the alienator, change the way you fight this case in courts, change the way you handle other people around, the better your situation is going to be. So it's hard to say in general what it's going to be in terms of the future. It really depends on all of these factors. So with this bill in Texas, it's HB 2153, the House bill in Texas right now. One of the things that is so critical is for us to get enough support so that this bill is right now is within a committee, and we need this bill to get out through the committee so that it can be heard, because we have so many parents behind us that wanted to share their story, that want to testify and want the lawmakers to hear their story. We also have adult children of parental alienation that want to share their story. So we really need a lot more public awareness and public support so that we can have, right now it's within the committee that's chaired by House Rep Victoria Nerve. I don't think if I say her name correctly, but we have like some 30 organizations that are and advocacy groups that are supporting this initiative. And we have, I think, about 70 parents and adult children of parental alienation that want to testify to support this bill. So any parents out there that are in Texas or any adult children of parental alienation anywhere, actually, just reach out to us, because we want to, we really want this law to pass in Texas.
Absolutely. And we will do that. We'll try to see if we can get other people to come forth with that. Doctor, I cannot thank you so much for what you've done and what you're moving forward, because it's a beacon of light to many parents out there that are going through this, and more important, for the children. And we have to make sure it changes. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And anytime if you want to come out again and touch on something else, please do so, and we will. And for those parents out there that are going through parental alienation, reach out. You can call me, we'll get, or call the doctor and find out exactly how we can help you, because this is something that goes on all the time.
Thank you so much.
And thank you once more. Folks, it's a new start for a week. We just left Easter. So I want to, let's go out there and be in peace. It's all for the best. Till next time. See you.
Today, in America, more than 5.5 million men, women, and children train in a martial art regularly. Buitrón Academy has been serving Laredo for over 30 years now. Our adult classes are geared for producing the best in you, teaching you street-ready techniques. With the arts of Savate and Kinpo, you'll learn the traditions of these sciences of combat, as passed down professor to student.
Hello everybody, my name is Senior Grandmaster Alfredo Bandalan, owner of BDP, Bandalan the Siparis. I'd like to say a few words on Grandmaster Buitrón. He's a man of great integrity, a man of great knowledge of martial art. He's a master of Savate and master of Eskrima. He's a man that can help you to become what you want to be. He's a man that teaches people how to be somebody in life, how to work the world, how to be happy in this world. He's a man that I can say holds many integrity, as well as in martial art. But I'd like to say this man has a radio station that's hunting all over the world, and he works with all kind of people, all walks of life. All I want to say, that Buitrón is a man that can help people to be somebody in life. I'd like to say aloha, thank you.
I am Grandmaster Michael Duran of Original Heroes Criminal Federation here in Vallejo, California. Professor Paul Buitrón is an accomplished martial artist who has developed an understanding that as a caretaker in our martial arts, it is his responsibility to keep the art alive and in depth. He acknowledged that it is the students that give the art life. I hold his friendship and his continuing accomplishments in the art in the most highest regard. Thank you.
Come train at the best kept secret of Laredo. Give us a call for your free evaluation at 956-401-4868 or check out our website at savate.biz. Follow us on YouTube and Facebook.